Well, Antifa is going to be designated a domestic terrorist organization. The president intends to sign that executive order very soon as it's drafted, as soon as today, later this afternoon. And this is something the president campaigned on because we have seen a rise in violence perpetuated by Antifa radical people across this country who subscribe to this group. And unfortunately, it's gone widely uncovered by many in the legacy media. It also went completely ignored by the previous administration. Not anymore.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The Trump regime is declaring anti-fascism a terrorist movement. That means the full force of the federal government will be brought to bear against anyone suspected of aiding Antifa. Here's the problem with that. Antifa isn't an entity. It's an idea. Antifa doesn't have a leadership structure or bank accounts or membership rosters, which means the federal government, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Donald Trump can define it however they want. They have already signaled that they will be going after funders like the Ford Foundation that support organizations with a mission to counter fascism. They will go after the media. And they will almost certainly go after Kris Goldsmith, the founder of Veterans Fighting Fascism. I've got a great two-part interview with Kris about this looming threat from the U.S. government. But a quick reminder first, I'll be on my way to Ukraine next week, so Bobby Jones will be guest hosting the Ken Harbaugh Show. I'll be back the week of October 6th with stories from across Ukraine. We've got an ambitious itinerary planned, no spoilers. But if you haven't yet signed up for my Substack page, please consider it. Every paid subscription goes directly into supporting the show. Thanks. Here's me and Kris Goldsmith. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. I've got Kris Goldsmith back. He's the founder and president of Veterans Fighting Fascism and Task Force Butler, which hold accountable extremists across the country and around the world. Kris, the president of the United States is planning to designate Antifa, a non-entity, as a terrorist entity. Antifa, of course, represents anti-fascism, but it's not an entity per se. What does it mean for the president of the United States and the full force of the federal government to declare anti-fascism to be a terrorist movement?
Well, I am a proud veteran of the largest and most effective Antifa force ever, and that is the United States Army. I come from a long line of Antifa, of men who served in World War II and fought fascists in Italy, Germany, and France. I keep in my office the letter from President Eisenhower that was written to my great grandma when my grand uncle was killed in the European theater, trying to liberate Europe from the fascists. So for Donald Trump to declare Antifa as a terrorist organization is laughable, as much as it is serious, because what he is trying to do is strip Americans of due process rights. By declaring Americans as terrorists, as members of an international terrorist organization, he's trying to accuse everything from the Ford Foundation, which Vice President J.D. Vance name-checked when he filled in for Charlie Kirk on state propaganda radio, which is what he's turned Charlie Kirk's show into, broadcasting from the White House, to folks like me. I mean, the great irony here is that Antifa, is not funded. I would love to receive some significant funding that allows me to do what I do. The White House can investigate all the funding they want. There is no funding. So, but again, it's as laughable as it is serious. As we said in a recent episode, I think you and I are on the list. We are opponents of a fascist regime, and they will use the tools of regulatory agencies to go after us. If not, a uniformed police force, a federalized National Guard. The way that ICE is growing, or the Department of Homeland Security is growing, by the time that November of next year rolls around for the midterm elections, I think that most Americans should expect that there are going to be ICE agents looking for this scary Antifa organization. Because the only way that you can declare an organization as a terrorist organization is if there's an international nexus. Now, Donald Trump doesn't understand the law, but this is the way that it would work. In the same way that we declare an organization like Atomwaffen as a terrorist organization because it has members internationally. So what they would be doing is accusing someone like me or someone like you. I wear a shirt and run an organization called Veterans Fighting Fascism. They would declare us as supporting international terrorists. And I think the line between declaring an American citizen and combat veteran to be a terrorist because he identifies as an anti-fascist and sending said veteran to Alligator Alcatraz, I think that line is very short. And I know that people might hear this and think that it sounds hysterical, but think of who you were and think of your mindset. I know not you, Ken, but for the average listener, think of what you thought back in October. It would have sounded hysterical if you heard me or did the training scenarios that Ken and I worked on together. And I was writing out a scenario of we'd have concentration camps. We'd have a secret police force. We'd have National Guard going from red states into blue states because they consider those red states National Guardsmen to be more loyal. Those things would all sound hyperbolic. They would sound hysterical, but look where we are today. So I am telling folks now that the line between declaring me as a terrorist and putting me in a concentration camp is extremely short. And every American should be pretty disturbed by this.
Hey everyone, it's Ken Harbaugh. Quick break to say just how grateful I am for all of your support for this channel and for this show. We have a big reporting trip coming up to Ukraine. I could use your help. We have to cover the film crew, interpreters, fixers, security. It's a whole thing, but it is worth it to be able to share with you and others what is actually happening on the ground there. I just published a feature story in The Atlantic about my last trip where I embedded with the drone unit at the front. Click the link below for the full article, and we'll be putting out more great fact-based reporting over Substack. Please consider subscribing. Everything I make from Substack and Patreon goes back into this show. Thanks for the help. Do you remember during the debate around the AUMF, the authorization for the use of military force that gave the government basically an unlimited writ to wage war around the world against any entity it considered a terrorist organization? And there were those of us saying, look, that is far too vague. What happens if and when a tyrannical president or a president simply predisposed to abusing their power declares an American organization to be a terrorist entity or an American citizen, and we're basically laughed out of the room? That's where we are. That's where we are. Literally, we have a president who is on the verge of declaring Americans terrorists for speaking up against him. And look, that's the other piece of it. I appreciate your perspective on the legal approach to tackling this non-entity entity Antifa, but I think there is something even more sinister in the fact that it's not an organization, because the president has basically declared an idea to be a terrorist idea.
Yeah, and Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance on Charlie Kirk's fascist propaganda show, again, that they broadcast together from the White House, they were specific in naming the Democrats, the Democratic Party, progressives, liberals, as terrorists. They were very explicit in saying who should be scared, because they were going to wield the powers of the government as a form of retribution for the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which no progressive or Democrat or liberal organization had any tie to. So, like we saw in history in the 1930s and 1940s, we are seeing the Reichstag fire moment. We are seeing the tendency towards a Kristallnacht like event. We are seeing how a fascist can respond to one random person assassinating someone that may or may not be important to the movement, but can be turned into a martyr. And as we're recording this, it was just yesterday that that Charlie Kirk's campaign rally / wake was broadcast across network television, where the president of the United States said that he hates his enemies. He does not forgive his political opponents, and that he wishes harm against them. That was a profoundly fascist rally yesterday, and it is moving us as a country, whether or not you watch this rally, in the direction of real authoritarian violence, again, against American civilians, denying American citizens of our constitutional rights.
I am sure you are just as frustrated as I am by the fact that we both saw this coming, and we spent all of 2024 warning people. And it's not a surprise. Donald Trump's campaign announcement when he decided to run for re-election was the retribution speech. He has been promising this since literally the first day of his second presidential campaign, that he will be retribution for those aggrieved Americans who are looking to settle scores. That was part one of my conversation with Kris Goldsmith. In part two, we go deep into why J.D. Vance should not be underestimated as a potential heir to the MAGA movement. It sounds unlikely, I know, but that is what is being set up. See you tomorrow.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.